I'm excited this afternoon to share with you a small peek into the lives of the students and teachers all across our great state. The stories that I will tell today are mine, true stories that happened to me and my students, but they are also the stories of so many educators across Tennessee. From urban to rural to suburban districts, educators are making immeasurable differences in the lives of students every day. Educators are insisting on high expectations, meeting students where they are, and helping them to rise to the challenge of learning. In order to effectively meet the challenge of insisting on high expectations, teachers must have two very specific beliefs. For years, I thought that it was enough to believe in my students. Believing in them is free. It costs absolutely nothing for me to walk in every day and believe that every child could learn. No matter what diverse characteristics they bring to the table, they all have the capability to learn and grow. But in addition to the belief in children, we must also believe in ourselves as educators. Believe in ourselves as teachers, as principals, as district leaders. As a teacher, I must have the belief that I have the ability to teach these students and to help them learn. Let me share with you an example of what I mean. It was a hot August afternoon. We were on our way in from physical activity. And I have to tell you that physical activity is just a fancy name for recess. So the students play basketball in Foursquare, they play soccer, they throw footballs, they dance, they walk laps around the track. It's 20 minutes of bliss for the kids and 20 minutes of bliss for teachers. We were on the way inside the school building when I overheard Stephanie say to her friend Sarah, "Oh, I just hate school." "What do you mean you hate school?" I asked. "We just had so much fun. We were at physical activity. It's a great day." She goes, "I just don't like being here." "So what do you want to be? What do you want to do when you finish high school in a few years?" I asked. "Miss Woodard, where I come from, people don't have good jobs. They work at McDonald's or they do hair out of their kitchens. They don't do anything great." "But Stephanie, you know you can go to college, right?" I said to her. "My parents, they don't have any money for college." You see, I went to college, Stephanie, but because my parents had, not because my parents had thousands of dollars to send me. I went to college on scholarships. I worked really hard in middle school. I worked even harder in high school. I studied really hard for the ACT and made good grades. And when it was time to go to school, colleges were offering me money to come. You know, you can do the same thing too. And thanks to Tennessee Promise, you can go to college for free for 2 years. "But Miss Woodard, you don't understand," Sarah chimes in. "Where we come from, it's so bad." I hear you, but let's get back to my original question. What do you want to do after high school? What do you want to be when you grow up? Both girls responded, "I don't know." You see, Stephanie and Sarah couldn't even think of one thing that they dreamed about being. Ask any child on the street and they can tell you what they want to be when they grow up. "I want to be a fireman. I want to be a doctor. I want to be a lawyer. I want to save lives." Dreams don't cost us anything, yet Sarah and Stephanie's environment had stolen their dreams. They looked around at their neighborhood and decided that it was their destiny. As teachers in Tennessee, we have some students who cannot dream, can't even determine what they want to do, can't even imagine because every day they see poverty, crime, homelessness, helplessness, abuse, and uncertainty. These students show up at our school doors, and then they're greeted by educators who not only believe in students and their abilities to learn, but also believe in themselves as educators and their own abilities to prepare them for their futures. When I think of high expectations, I think of getting students truly ready for what lies beyond high school. That means that they need to be prepared for post-secondary success. One of Tennessee's 2020 goals is that more than half of Tennessee students attain some form of post-secondary certification. Reaching this goal starts with an amazing ability that educators already have. We believe in every child, every day. It's a belief that I've mentioned before, but it's definitely worth mentioning again. You see, no matter their race, religion, socioeconomic status, neighborhood, or even current living conditions, we believe that all children can and will learn. It's our faith in our students' abilities that is the foundation for so many life-changing student-teacher relationships, the kind of relationships that extend beyond the classroom and last a lifetime. You see, insisting on high expectations means that we help students redefine their realities and rework their destinies. We cultivate dreams until they grow into a new reality. I didn't let Sarah and Stephanie off the hook. I continued to hold them to high expectations in the classroom and to build relationships with them as well. Months later, out of nowhere, Sarah shows up in my door and said, "Miss Woodard, you remember that question you asked me earlier?" She says, "I have an answer for you now. I really want to be a nurse." And as for Stephanie, she took a big leap and chose a path that none of her neighborhood friends took. She applied for, auditioned for a spot, and was accepted at Nashville School of the Arts. And Stephanie is on her way to living her dream in music. Carter G. Woodson once wrote that the mere imparting of information is not education. That quote reminds me of one of the greatest compliments that I ever got from an 8th grader. One of the students that I had last year, his name was Luke, and Luke is full of life and loves to move, enjoys his friends, but math is definitely not his favorite subject. Luke looked me square in the eyes one afternoon and said, "Miss Woodard, when we come to your class, you always make us do stuff." I said, "Really? Stuff? Stuff like what?" He said, "You know, stuff." I smiled at Luke and told him thank you for the compliment. He looked at me with his puzzled, adolescent eyes. I started thinking about the stuff that Luke was referring to. Students doing stuff is engagement, not to be confused with compliance. Engagement. The Great Schools Partnership defines student engagement as the degree of attention and curiosity, interest, optimism, and passion that students show when they are learning or being taught, which extends to the level of motivation that they have to learn and progress in their education. In my experience, engagement means that learning is personal and real, relevant to the students' everyday lives. In my classroom and in classrooms all across Tennessee, students are tackling tough problems. They're writing, even in math class. They are analyzing texts, engaged in projects, working in small groups. They are collaborating with their peers, constructing their own reasoning, critiquing the reasoning of others. Yes, class is full of stuff. And that's the stuff that engagement is made of. If we're going to meet Tennessee's 2020 goal of increasing the student average ACT mark to 21, then we must truly insist on high expectations and find ways to engage every learner. We must ensure that they are all reaching beyond their full potential and engaging in learning at a deep level. One of my former students from SCORE prize-winning Rose Park Magnet Middle School recently reached out to me on social media. DeMarco was in my class in 2003. It was my first year of teaching, and if I could do that year all over again, I would. He wanted to share with me his college graduation. He was so excited to share. He sent pictures from his celebration in the mail with a handwritten note. "Thank you for pushing me when I wanted to give up. Now I can be the teacher who inspires others, just like you inspired me." When we insist on high expectations, inspiration is contagious. We inspire our students in the classroom. They go home and inspire their families. They go on to high school and inspire their classmates. They go to college, start careers, go to the military, and inspire their colleagues. They start their own families, have their own children. They inspire their spouses and their own children, and before we know it, insisting on high expectations has led to a generation of people who are inspired to do great things. I received an email from another student who I taught at Rose Park. Samuel wrote, "As a student in your class, I have learned to face challenges. And this has been reflected in the courses that I've taken and the career goal that I have to become an internal medicine physician. Because of the drive that I developed in your class, I have set high aspirations that I know I will accomplish." Neither Samuel nor DeMarco thanked me for the math that they learned in class. They didn't mention the quadratic formula that I taught them or how I taught them to solve equations. Instead, they remembered that I taught them to persevere, to face challenges, and that I helped to prepare them for their futures. After experiences in my class, they have set these wonderful career goals, and now they are convinced that they will reach them. Tennessee is on this great path of educating diverse students from all walks of life. We have made vast improvements over the last several years, but y'all, we can do even better. Our final 2020 goal is that Tennessee rises to the top half of states in student academic performance on the nation's report card. This is a challenge. It's a mountain to climb. But as educators, we are the masters of teaching children to persevere, to face challenges, and to get ready for what's coming next. We must continue to teach that lesson of perseverance to our children, but we also must live that lesson as we endeavor to rise to the top half of states in the nation. As educators, insisting on high expectations is not just limited to our interactions with children. We must be intentional about collaborating with colleagues, working with each other to plan lessons that are cross-curricular, fun, and engaging. And we must find innovative ways, y'all, to attract talented people from diverse backgrounds to this profession. I remember my first year of teaching 13 years ago. I was eager to change the world, and I still think I can. The reality and challenge of teaching soon hit me, but without the loving support of the dream team of veteran educators that I had and that I was blessed to work with, I don't know if I'd still be teaching today. I'm thrilled to be a teacher in Tennessee, and every day I get out of bed feeling so grateful that I get to do this work. Insisting on high expectations means that we cultivate dreams until they grow into reality. We get to create classroom and school environments that are centered around students, where students feel loved and safe, and where they are engaged in learning at a deep level. We get to challenge kids and help them to persevere even when they want to give up. Insisting on high expectations for every child, every day, means that we are truly changing the world. Thank you.